Hi guys, welcome to part 8 of my build series. In this video I want to answer some questions that were posted in the comments, talk about some of the good and the bad of the build, and generally give an overall impression of the process. Let's get started. Okay, so one question I got a lot, both in comments and in personal emails that people have sent me through YouTube, is what am I going to do with overclocking? As it is right now, I'm not going to overclock at all. I'll show you my performance index here, and you can see it's at a 7.6, and that's because of my processor. This to me is just fine. It's more than enough for everything that I need to do, which is video editing and browsing, some gaming, and a little of software development. This is way more than enough speed for me as it is. I might consider overclocking and probably will in the future, but as it is right now, speed is just fine. Another question that I got a lot of had to do with the fan noise. I have to admit it's a little bit louder than I thought it was going to be. The two 200mm fans that are in the case and the 120mm fan that I put in the back of the case altogether are a little bit louder than I thought they were going to be, but for now it's not too unbearable. I am looking into maybe replacing the top 200mm fan and replacing it with a couple of Noctua fans, but that's not really a priority, and for now the sound is fine, not too much of a problem. Another question that I got a lot had to do with memory. So I went with 16 gigs of memory, and I did get asked a couple times why didn't I just go with 8 and save myself some money. Well, as I explained in a couple videos back, the price difference between 16 gig and 8 gig was so small relative to the I guess future-proofing. So to me, spending a few extra dollars for 8 more gigs of memory in the long run just seemed like a smart thing to do. I did get a couple of requests to try and use virtualization and to see if I could get Mac OS X to run on this thing. It's something that I might consider in the future, but it's probably not something I'm going to do right now. If I get my hands on a distribution for Mac OS X, I would probably try it, but it's not something that I'm very familiar with. So it might be something interesting to try and learn how to do, but the Mac software is not something that I'm a user of. I'm a Windows guy, a Unix guy, but not an Apple guy at the moment. But we'll see. Okay, so for a couple of annoyances, this really is not anything to do with the performance of my PC, but more sort of the nature of the game, I guess, as far as ordering parts and building a computer. So when I got my parts delivered, maybe 2-3 days after I got them in, I went back on Newegg and discovered that ASUS had just released a new version of the motherboard that I got, and that particular board had, I believe, the new Gen 3 PCIe slots. Would it be nice to have the latest and greatest board? Sure, but again, like I mentioned a few videos ago, you just sort of have to not wait, and once you have your parts picked, just order and build. I think that if you continue to wait and wait and wait and wait, you'll forever be waiting. So for me, it was a little of a pain to see that, maybe a week after I placed an order that I had a brand new board coming out, but that's okay. I ran into the same situation with my Corsair solid state drive. So I ordered a Force 120 gig drive, and the day after I got my parts, I went and discovered that Newegg had a deal on the Force GT 120 gig solid state drive. And although the Force solid state drive is a really fast drive, the GT would have been a little bit better. For the same price, of course, I would have ordered the Force GT if it was available at the time, but it wasn't. So I got the Corsair Force 120 gig. I probably would not have noticed the difference between the two, but again, it's just the nature of the game. Okay, so once I installed Windows 7, took me a little longer to do the initial setup than it would normally if I was just doing an install on a single drive setup. But because I'm using a solid state drive as my main drive for the operating system and then a 2 TB drive for my data, I needed to take a couple extra steps so that I could point my desktop and all of the libraries for like my documents, music, pictures, videos, that sort of stuff, point those over to my data drive as opposed to my my local drive, which is only going to be used for operating system. It didn't really take a long time to do, but it is something that was extra over and above the install. And it does take a little getting used to when installing software to remember to go back and not click next, next, next and take all the defaults for your software because they're all going to install on your C partition. What I ended up doing was I created a directory just called programs, and then any new piece of software that I was installing, I just have it install here. Okay, so let me close this window and I'm going to move the camera down just a little bit. So this is the Logitech G510 gaming keyboard, and I was pretty excited when I ordered this. I thought it was going to work out really well, but I have to admit that I need a little bit more time to get used to the layout here. The keyboard that I had on my laptop was a little larger insofar as the actual keys here, the layout, and the keys themselves, of course, because it's a laptop, are a lot shorter in height, I guess. So these keys a little taller, a little bit more closer together, and with muscle memory after typing or playing games, I find myself missing the wrong keys just by a little bit, and maybe hitting a couple keys at the same time. I am just finally getting used to this layout, and I am really liking this keyboard a lot, but if you're used to one particular layout and you've been using that for 3-4 years, changing that up takes a little getting used to. I was originally considering sending this back and getting something else, but I thought I'd hang with it for a little bit, and I'm glad I did because I'm actually liking it a little bit more. Okay, so this isn't something that was part of my original order, but it is something that I did get pretty soon afterwards. This is a Razer Xbox style controller. It's a Razer Onza Tournament Edition. I got this so that I could play Batman Arkham Asylum a little bit easier than using the keyboard and mouse. I do have an unboxing video of this that I'll post in the future. I really do like this thing. It's actually pretty cool. Alright, so here's my a quick little shot of my setup here. Monitor, keyboard, mouse, my Xbox style controller here, and my small little desk. And then here's the computer in its new home. One thing I did do, which I'll try and show, is I've got the computer sitting on a piece of plywood. And the reason being is, of course, I've got carpet, and with the power supply installed as it is with the fan on the bottom, I've got air coming in from the bottom to cool my power supply. So if this thing was right on the carpet, I'd be probably sucking up a lot more dust than fresh air. And rather than do that, I just put it on a piece of plywood so that it was nice and flat. Okay, so one thing that just occurred to me is I showed you where my setup is and the little desk that I'm using. I share an office with my wife, and I am not in here by any stretch as much as she is, because she actually uses the office way more than I do. So I'm more than happy to have my little setup over here. Works just fine, and no problems here on my side. Okay, so lastly, I just wanted to thank everybody for subscribing. I just hit 50 subscribers today, which in YouTube land is not really a lot of people, but for me personally, I think that's pretty cool. I really enjoy the comments and the messages back and forth, and I try to answer as best I can. Like I had mentioned previously, I'm no expert. I'm just really an enthusiast, and I really like doing research and looking at new technology, new equipment, and it's something I just like to do. So I'm more than happy to help in any way that I can. So thanks for watching, everybody, and stay tuned for new videos. Thanks.